Folks, can I have your attention, please? Would you mind grabbing a seat? We're going to get started here in a minute. Don't be shy. Come on up. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today for this very, very important announcement. My name is Don Bureau, and I have the honor of being the chair of the Board for Research Nova Scotia. And today I have the honor also of being the MC of today's exciting announcement. We're going to begin, and we're very pleased to be joined by John Syllaboy. I'm going to ask John to come up to the podium. And we're very blessed that he'll be leading us through a smudging. So John, would you please come up to the podium, please?
So before we do the smudge, thanks everybody. That will out you. Ninda Lucy John are. Well, that's one no because no audit. I know one of our elders is not here yet. They're supposed to be moving up towards the area sometime soon. It's Albert Marshall from Miskazoni. We call him Galamuxis Albert. And also Chief Wilbur is outside. So just to acknowledge them that they're present. What we're going to do is we're going to do a smudge. And we're going to do a small smudge at this point. We're just going to, because the room is so tight and so small. And there's folks that can be affected by smoke and everything else. So we're going to do a small smudge here, Sharon and I. And I'm going to introduce Sharon Rutherham, who's our community representative, community knowledge carrier, has been working in Indigenous health and research and collaboration and leadership building and capacity and advocacy and everything else in between for at least, well, I won't say how many years, but not to out them. And to make sure that we understand that the representation of voice from community is important. Chief Wilbur, come on up. Nice to see you. And then we also have Sharon that's going to provide the welcoming part, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the smudging ceremony immediately after. And then I'll have him back it over to Don. All right? Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all on behalf of all of our Mi'kmaq communities, all of our leadership, all of our health directors, to this wonderful announcement today. We look forward to working in partnership with all of you in the future as our work in Dudgeagamek, the new Mi'kmaq Health Organization, continues. Thank you.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Sharon. Again, folks, we've come together today for an outstanding announcement, but I do want to acknowledge that we, of course, are coming together today on the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq Nation. We know that through a series of treaties dating back to the 1720s through to the 1770s, a commitment in those treaties was described and articulated to coexist in peace and friendship. And they ceded no territory and surrendered no rights to the land and the resources. We are coming together today on this very sacred land, and I think it's very important that we all continue to recognize that in Nova Scotia, we are all treaty people. Folks, we have a lot of dignitaries in the audience today. I'm so pleased with the turnout. I'm going to go through a few. There's always a danger in naming a few people in the audience because there's a tendency to leave people out. Everyone in this audience matters, but I do want to note a couple of people. To begin with, our minister, the Honorable McGuire. I've had the honor of knowing the minister for a number of years now. I'm going off script, so for those of you who wrote my script, I'm going off it completely. I've had the honor of knowing our minister for quite a number of years, and I would say this, minister, even if you weren't in the room, you were one of the hardest MLAs I've ever had the honor of knowing, and you have a very large portfolio, and we're very much looking forward to working with you as the Minister of Advanced Education and also the minister responsible for our public school system here in Nova Scotia. So thank you for all of your work. We also have the Deputy Minister here, Tracy, thank you. I know that you believe deeply in this work, and I've had the honor of working with you for a number of years, so thank you very, very much. We have some senators in the room. It's an honor to have these folks joining us this afternoon, and they don't require an actual introduction, but I will introduce them. And first of all, Senator Alistair Surrett. Alistair, thank you for your commitment to post-secondary education in the province of Nova Scotia. Of course, a former president of University of St. Anne, but also a former member of the board of directors for Research Nova Scotia. Senator Roger Cuzner. Roger, thank you. Great to see you here this morning, Senator. I know a big believer in the power of education and the importance of research in Nova Scotia, and obviously a big fan of our Cape Breton colleagues here today. So thank you for all your work. Senator Stan Kutchner. Thank you. This ecosystem of research in the province of Nova Scotia has never had a larger ally than you and all your incredible academic work over the years. So, Senator, thank you for your incredible commitment to the research ecosystem. One other individual I want to introduce, of course, is my colleague, President David Dingwall, President of Cape Breton University, also a former member of our board of directors and a big believer in the power of research. Folks, as I mentioned earlier, I have the absolute, Chief Wilbur, thank you for being here this morning also. Yes, again, I have the honor of knowing the Chief, working very closely with him and his Chief colleagues on the power of education to transform people's lives. So Chief, thank you for coming today to join us. As I said, I've been on the board of directors for Research Nova Scotia since its inception a number of years ago. The work that we do, I think, is critically important to maximize and leverage the research ecosystem here in the province of Nova Scotia. Our board is comprised of individuals from the private sector, from the post-secondary sector, and we have individuals from our government partners on that board. And together, I think we make a very unique board because we're one of the unique organizations in the country that have those three groups together under one roof. One of the reasons why we've been so successful is because of our amazing Chief Executive Officer. This individual, Stephen Leslie, requires, I don't think, any introduction in this room, but from day one, he's our inaugural CEO. He's been with us during the journey of building up this institution to be a world-class research entity, and we are so pleased with his visionary commitment to, again, maximizing and leveraging research in the province of Nova Scotia. So I'm very pleased to invite Stefan to the podium to explain more about the nature of what we're announcing today. And this is one of our, well, probably I think it's our only public announcement. We're a very quiet organization operating in the background, doing great work. I'm so thrilled that this is one of our first public presentations on what will be coming up. So Stefan, on behalf of the board, thank you for your incredible leadership, and I welcome you to the podium.
Good afternoon, everyone. We're finally here. Before I get started, and thanks, Don, for the invitation, I'm speaking on behalf of the full team of Research Nova Scotia. We are 10 people who work very hard on a variety of different things. We're going to focus on one thing today, but collectively, they're building up the research capacity in this province, working on research projects, monitoring and reporting on behalf of the public, ensuring that public funds are spent well. We work on research infrastructure and equipment, on studentships, on early career researchers. We work on research projects. We have partnerships with all levels of government, the private sector, the nonprofit sector, all of which is done by these 10 highly committed individuals. And as of this morning, I checked, Megan looked for me, we have 442 active projects underway as of this morning. And so we're now going to talk about 43 through 46. But they do deserve a little bit of extra attention because it's something unique. And it's unique because today we're beginning a new way to support research in service of society. And I want to talk about what these are, focused research investments, because they are, in fact, a relatively simple concept. You start with a problem or a risk or an opportunity in society, and then you build a research program to solve for it. And we did this by inviting researchers to work with their communities and their partners in the private and public sectors to understand what's needed. And a true dialogue was fostered, and collectively, they are now a team. Representatives of those communities and partners are here today, and you'll have a chance to meet them if you haven't already. And I encourage you, after we go through this announcement, to speak to them and ask them, what does this mean for your community? So today we begin. We begin by empowering those teams by providing them with funding, support, and time to get the work done to meet those community needs. Starting today, these FRI teams will provide targeted, coordinated, and sustained attention on areas of importance to Nova Scotia. Areas like youth mental health, aging in rural communities, Indigenous knowledge, health, and healing, and working with communities to build the tools to address local issues together. So, focused research investments, 3 words. Focused is the first word. The problem or opportunity that each of these teams are tackling is a complex one. They've identified a series of interlocking projects and initiatives within that FRI that together will lead to solutions. Each FRI is taking on a challenge where we need organization and coordination to bring shape and structure to the research efforts, or we'll risk duplication or inefficiencies. They do not fit easily within one discipline, one economic area, or one policy area. Focused means that the research is centered on society's needs. It means that we will sustain our efforts to see this work through to solutions. And representatives of those research teams are here today, the researchers themselves. You will have a chance to meet with some of them as well. They will each be speaking briefly to the project that they will be working on. And I encourage you to ask them, how did your engagement with your community shape your research? How are you serving your community? Second, research. We have identified research teams where it is the research itself that is an essential component to achieving the solution. We need research in order to discover, we need to discover in order to learn, and we need to learn in order to solve. When we opened this door last spring, we received 46 thoughtful ideas from researchers eager to participate in this initiative. From that group of 46, we chose to work with 9 to develop strong, ambitious, and focused programs of work. All 9 were passionate teams driven to be civic actors, and we have chosen now 4 to launch as the inaugural group of focused research investments. And there is no compromise on scientific quality. When all the details of the proposals were worked out and all the methods and budgets and whatnot had all been described in careful detail, we sent these proposed FRI to subject matter experts around the world for a comprehensive review. So we are confident and satisfied that all 4 teams meet the highest standards of research practices, which safeguards science's integrity and ethical standards. Although the objective may be societal benefit, research excellence is, as always, a condition of our support. Third, investment. In the plain and simple sense of the word, a good investment is one where the future benefits or values exceed the costs. Costs include both the funds we are using to make this work happen, but also the costs that we are all paying every day that a problem is not addressed, such as the costs of unmet mental health needs for children and youth, or the costs of seniors unable to live in the home that they choose. We have worked in partnership with all of these teams and their communities to articulate the benefits of solving these problems, and we have chosen areas where the impact will be substantial. A final thought to conclude these remarks. In 2016, Daniel Sarowitz at Arizona State University wrote about what the most valuable science institutions will look like in the future. He said, "They will be closely linked to the people and places whose urgent problems need to be solved. They will cultivate strong lines of accountability to those for whom solutions are important. They will link research agendas to the quest for improved solutions. The science they produce will be of higher quality because it will have to be." It's now my pleasure to invite Minister McGuire to join me in introducing the 4 remarkable focused research investments, our leaders in this new most valuable science institution in and for Nova Scotia. So a theme for the first FRI that we're announcing is learn from each other, learning how within a 2-eyed seeing approach, Western approaches to research and Indigenous ways of knowing can be brought together. Learning how the organizations created by our provincial government can work in true partnership with those created by and for the Mi'kmaq community. Call to Action 22 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission says that those who can affect change must recognize the value of Aboriginal healing practices and to use them. With this FRI, we are in a position to affect this change. There can be no closer link between this research team and the community. Here, they are one and the same.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. And before I get into the official remarks, which whoever wrote this, I kind of butchered, so I apologize. I cut like 3/4 of it out because nobody needs to hear me speak. It's an honor to stand here in this room today in front of all these leaders and individuals who are moving this province forward. People, whether they like me or not, often ask me why I got into politics. And there's 2 people in this room you can blame. One is Stan Kutcher and the other is Danny Graham. So if you have a problem with me, maybe you should take it up with them afterwards. All jokes aside, they've been fantastic. And I just want to thank all of you for being here today. So Research Nova Scotia is awarding $7 million to Etta Walodi, using Mi'kmaq knowledge to create health and wellness solutions led by Dr. Margot Latimer and John R. Silboy. Combining traditional Indigenous knowledges and Western practices will result in appropriate healthcare approaches that are culturally safe for Mi'kmaq children and youth. I asked John R. Silboy to tell us a little more about the project.
Were you expecting to come up?
Nindeluisi John, our Wedebex is Sony, Millbrook, Walidem bigging sama, Walidem kinigama bigging kick. I emoji blue exclusion of retail next week done Deliagonudumulo. Hi everyone, I'm John R. and I'm from Eskazoni and Millbrook First Nations. I'm acknowledging our leadership here, being Wilbur from our community. And of course, Sharon is also leadership from our community and folks that are of the same speaking language as I do speak, which is Mi'kmaq. Our focused research investment, ironically enough, it was very difficult to keep this under wrap. Coming from our community, years ago, my mother taught me something when I was coming out of my community as a Two-Spirit person, and I shared these narratives in my in my theses, and I told her, I'm coming out, I'm sort of explaining the situation and all this stuff, and she says to me, you're from Mi'kmaq, you're from Eskazoni, you're from Millbrook. You're a person that's involved in our community quite a bit, and our family is quite involved in a lot of different projects. You're not going to keep this under wraps. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, coming out to me and to the Silla boys, you're automatically coming out to everybody in Mi'kmaq. And so keeping anything that is celebratory, such as this news, was very difficult. And so we had to keep it under wrap. Acknowledging all the leadership that's in the room and also all of the leadership that has to do with research is quite remarkable to achieve what we're achieving today on behalf of our community, Mi'kmaq. Not because of who we are as Mi'kmaq, it's because of the fact that the whole nature and the whole basis on research and the foundations of research and the whole colonial aspect of what research is something contrary to who we are as Indigenous people or as Mi'kmaq. One of the biggest challenges is trying to convince people our own scientific knowledge as Mi'kmaq is valid, it's rich, it's extensive, it's collaborative, and it's extremely important to move forward with addressing Indigenous health, for example. So we can't do it by ourselves. That's one part. The other part is the fact that when we do have let's say a framework, the word is very much English, like tuaitsing or eduaptimum, that's the foundation by which we use collaboration and kinship and relationship to move forward with. We can't do it by ourselves. We always say that, and we know that we have to do it in a way that is collaborative through treaty, collaborative through relationship building, and of course, that process hasn't been easy, and it's been continuous in our area. We've had breach protocols, we've had ethics protocols breached, we've had want to do it right. And that's part of this process. So when we're looking at this focused research investment, we started to analyze what does that look like from our worldview. And Welodi, the word Welodi itself is being well together. It's health being together. And we can't have that on our own. We have to do it with the knowledge that we have as Ulnu, as Mi'kmaq, but also collaborating with the Western strengths of knowledge that exist out there that we've collaborated with, that we've worked with many, many centuries over and over again. Glomux says Albert is supposed to be here, but I'll say this. Albert's the one that's taught us and is constantly teaching us to make sure that we have our worldview invested, integrated, and celebrated in our knowledge practices. This is a knowledge practice. The important thing about the FRI this time, though, what we feel is that this is going to be a significant validation of nationhood-based research as the Mi'kmaq in Mi'kmaq. Now get this, we're in Nova Scotia. Yes, this is part of Nova Scotia, but doing any of the research that we're going to be doing as Mi'kmaq is all of the nationhood. That includes places like New Brunswick and Newfoundland and PEI and Gaspé and the people that live in Maine. It's Wabanaki at the same time. So that overlaps the boundaries that we may have. That's a significant component to this research. We also know that in evaluation of our programming and our ways of doing things and celebrating our ways of living and integrating them into a health practice is part of that process. So not only as the scientific director of this project, I'm also the executive director for the Wabanaki Two-Spirit Alliance. And in our program development of, for example, building supports for Two-Spirit people, we're looking at how we're going to build gender-based care for Two-Spirit people. And one of our objectives is to evaluate that process. What does the programming look like? How is it going to develop into actual best pathways? We're hoping that in the next near future, we'll be announcing a project by which we are going to have a transitional home for Two-Spirit people. And when we do, we want to make sure that those units provide gender affirming care as well. This has never been done in the Atlantic. It's never been done east of Montreal, or I may say not even in Canada. And we're hoping to do that. But we need this kind of foundation, this kind of resource to make sure that we get it right, because we don't want people to be excluded from their processes already. Gender affirming care has many barriers, and being Indigenous seeking care can face a lot of barriers. We want to make sure we get it right, and this is one way of doing that. And of course, the last thing that I'll share is this, is that validation of nationhood-based knowledge that we have is also a validation of our scientific knowledge of who we are as Mi'kmaq and using that knowledge and resource into our well-being. We have hundreds, if not thousands of years of knowledge that's compressed into ways in which we celebrate our identity, celebrate our health, celebrate our cultural aspects and our language and our land-based activities. We hadn't done this in merely 500 years since arrival of Europeans. We've been doing it for a lot longer. So basing that knowledge and making sure that we move it forward is part of this process. Somebody's calling me. That's a signal. Get off the stage. So the idea is that we build an institution of scientific knowledge into this framework and foundation, and we're collaborating with Dajagamic. And that partnership is extremely important in keeping community-led research, community foundations for research capacity from our Mi'kmaq community. Dajagamic is going to be leading this with us, and we're going to be hosting this process he's going through. We're going to look at all different types of things, but those are the most important things. Please repeat after me. This is the teacher in me. Welodi. That's what it is, Welodi. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Second project. Now, it is hard to imagine a team more excited than this one. I think they might have actually leapt like off the ground when the FRI came along, because for them, this was the mechanism to knit together a number of priorities, areas that they had to serve their communities. This FRI will work closely with residents in rural Nova Scotia to co-design and test strategies for them, and it will bring together researchers across disciplines and organizations to evaluate how an integrated approach can be deployed in a more effective way. Minister.
I'm back. Just listening to John R. gives me a lot of hope. The collaboration, working with other provinces. I think we need more John R. Syllaboys in Nova Scotia and across the world right now. So I'm pleased to announce that Research Nova Scotia is awarding $12.4 million to Homeward Bound, enhancing healthcare, housing, and social support for aging rural Nova Scotians, led by Dr. Alison Grittner. Her research team from CBU will work with community organizations, fertility experts at Nova Scotia Health, and home maintenance experts from the Nova Scotia Community College to foster environments that support residents of rural communities to age in their homes as long as they wish, delaying and sometimes even avoiding the need for long-term care. And it says here, and I scratched it out, but I'll put it in anyways, this is the largest single research award that Cape Breton University has ever received. So I'll invite Dr. Alison Grittner to tell us more about this project.
So much. Oh, I can't believe this day is all is here. As we heard it's been really hard keeping this a secret around Cape Breton. To begin, I want to say just a huge, enormous thank you to Research Nova Scotia for investing in the social change that Homeward Bound is poised to generate across rural Nova Scotia. Currently, 22% of Nova Scotians are age 65 or older, but in the eastern health zone of this province, it's at an even higher rate, and we estimate right now it's about 30% of individuals living in the eastern health zone. This is well above the national average. And we know that most aging Nova Scotians want to remain in their homes and communities. Yet rural challenges such as geographic isolation from neighbors in healthcare, as well as inaccessible housing stock and disconnected social supports are all barriers individuals currently face to aging well. We also know that most vulnerable within this landscape are women who age with significantly higher rates of disability, income precarity, and access to healthcare. And like everybody else, I'm just going to go off script for a second and say that I hold this knowledge of how difficult those challenges are, as when my own grandmother was facing them, she chose to end her own life instead of face the difficulty that comes with these experiences. So Homeward Bound is responding by collaborating with aging rural Nova Scotians in the Eastern Health Zone to design, implement, and evaluate interventions across healthcare, housing, and social supports. We will assess how appropriate housing can help seniors stay in their homes. We will introduce virtual care, surgical transition support, and rehabilitation initiatives. Our community navigators and mobile research vans will ensure that seniors remain connected to the research project, the social programs, and most importantly, their communities. I am so proud to lead a team with researchers from Cape Breton University, as well as institutions across Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Ontario, as well as the collective interprofessional team and community collaborators who all answered our call to advance social justice and aging. At the core of Homeward Bound, however, are our lived experience advisors, and we work so closely with them throughout the development of this proposal. These are aging rural Nova Scotians who are generously sharing their knowledge, their lives, and their stories to create a better future for all aging rural Nova Scotians. Together, we are going to develop an aging in the right place model for rural communities, reducing hospital visits, delaying or preventing long-term care admissions, and most importantly, enhancing the quality of life for aging rural Nova Scotians and beyond. So thank you.
Going off script is just fine if you're excited about what you got to say. It's just guidelines. Right. So the third project, this FRI is going to explore and unpack and figure out how to improve a really complicated but desperately important system for the delivery of care in Nova Scotia. This team, and when we received this proposal and they were listing out all their team members, like just scrolling page after page, they actually have a team of, I think, about 40 people and 20 different organizations, all of whom are joining forces to find system solutions for more effective, efficient, and equitable care.
So you said I can go off script? Can I go? She's shaking her head no. I'm really excited about that project because I was pounding the drums for the last 5 years on Capable. Do you know what Capable is, coming out of Baltimore? And awesome. Yeah, and it's about dignity and choice. This one here, I will, before I get into the words, is something that's near and dear to my heart. I know some of the individuals in the room who've worked hard on this. I've been very open about my struggles with mental health. I'm somebody who deals with anxiety, depression, and probably a little bit of ADHD. I've always tried to deal with it on my own, and I felt like how for me it was always about like, forgive me, but I was always told, be a man, go over there, don't cry, be a man, deal with it. And it was actually Stan who started me on a path to dealing with it. And actually over the last 12 months, my partner, before I took on the role at DCS, which growing up in the system, there is some memories, good and bad. My partner, Rena, was like, oh, you're going to see somebody and we're going to deal with your mental health issues. And I can tell you that right after the last election, and I haven't spoken about this publicly, but after the last election, I essentially didn't get out of bed for a month. Even though it was a quote unquote good time for me, or like good moment, something inside of me, and I felt like I just couldn't, like, I've dealt with it before in the past, but this time I felt like I couldn't get out of the hole. So I was really desperate, and I've been talking to someone, and medication and doctors and a physical and all that stuff. So that's enough about me. I think, so Research Nova Scotia is awarding, and we're very proud to award $6.5 million to Unifying Networks to Innovate or Unite, a whole of system approach for youth mental health led by Jenny Bachler, Dalhousie Facility of Management, and doctors Jill Chorney and Lori Wozni at Dal's Department of Psychiatry and IWK Health. Unite will be hosted by Dal University. Research tells us that mental health challenges represent the most significant threat to the future and potential of young people, and I couldn't agree with that more, especially cell phones, internet, social media, something that is particularly prevalent in Nova Scotia. So I'm going to invite Dr. Laura Wozni up here to tell us a little bit more about Unite.
Thank you so much for sharing your honest life experience. I think some of those moments say a lot more than we can in research, just to hear the voice of hope and recovery for people. So thank you for that. We are incredibly excited and humbled to be one of the teams receiving an FRI, and also to be in the company of so many incredible researchers and teams and partners in this room. I see a lot of my own mentors as a young researcher. I grew up in Nova Scotia, and it's kind of great to all be in a room together celebrating the power of research in our communities. Struggles. They experience these things not just as a clinical services access issue, but really as a societal issue. And we really believe that research has a role to play in how we address them. And we are, in fact, a team of over 40 members, which is pretty unbelievable, and more to come, and 20 partner groups and organizations. We come from different universities, different disciplines. We come from different sectors and different organizations. And we also have community and youth advocacy population members of our team. It's incredibly exciting when we started this call to develop this proposal, the number of people that kind of said, yes, this matters. This is work that we want to do. This is work we can contribute to. We don't have the whole part of the puzzle, but we have one piece of it. So we're really thankful for the growing team that we're developing, and the FRI is only going to take us further. Really, our project is really kind of focused on 3 areas where we think research can have a really big impact. One is on the amount of data, and data is one of those words right now that kind of float around and people aren't really sure a lot what to do with it. We know that there's data collected in education and community services and healthcare, and community organizations collect data. And we all have a lot of data, but we don't always know what to do with it, and we don't know how to take good insights out of that data. So part of our work is really going to be, how do we work together as a team to get better insights out of our data so that we understand more about what's happening with our youth, their needs, the services that they need, but we're doing it in a way that's a lot more holistic than we have in the past. A second area for us is really diving deeper into the experiences of care when people reach out for help, and how vital it is that young people and caregivers access the right level of care at the right time in those moments. And for us, that means we need to dive into their needs at those moments, and the solutions that young people and caregivers are really reaching out for. And so we're going to trial different solutions with those youth and caregivers, and with the different kinds of providers that they intersect with across the system. It's really important that those moments of help seeking and reaching out are met with care that's very humanizing and compassionate and supportive. And lastly, we know that the world is very complex, and the way that we work together across the youth mental health system is complex. It's marked by a lot of fragmentation and uncoordination. And so we need to think about the people that are working in the system and how we equip those individuals and organizations across the system to work, to have better skills, to have knowledge and tools, to work across boundaries, to work, and where there's times when we have competing and sometimes shifting priorities in our work, different mandates in our work, and how do we collaborate and find ways to move things forward, and even in times of uncertainty. So this FRI is an incredible investment. Mental health is often underfunded in terms of other areas of health research. This is a monumental moment for us. We're extremely excited to be working with our partners, and we know that as we do this work, we're going to improve the lives of young people and really work towards building a better future together. So thank you.
So just before I start on the fourth and final one, this will be the last time I'm at the podium. So I just thought I'd take a moment to express my thanks to all of you for coming on a somewhat gloomy day in January to spend some time learning about these 4 really important research projects that I can tell you these teams are just itching to get going. And in fact, they've already started in some respects as much as they can. But also to remember that behind all of them, or behind all of those projects that we were able to select, were a whole bunch of committed and passionate researchers whom we couldn't support this time, but who are working in important areas as well. And as a whole, provide the kind of support that society needs in order to advance the knowledge, in order to make improvements to people's lives. And so I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the broader purpose of research. And with this kind of audience, I suspect you are largely already in that territory, but I think it takes, it's worth spending a moment just to reflect on the importance and the difficulty, but the value of that work going forward. So fourth, that was really off script too. So
Started a trend.
yeah, sorry to all my people who try to keep us on. Anyway, so the fourth, and certainly not the final one, I hope, is about communities and how communities have changed. They have changed in response to both local, national, international forces that have acted on them. The services that they have provided, the role they played to their members has changed over time. Some of those things have been replaced by government services. Some of them have been replaced by elements of the consumer economy, but not everything has been replaced. And that's where this FRI is active.
Okay. Thank you for that. This one also is extremely important. As the world is changing, I think it's more and more important that we be a welcoming province and we understand the cultural differences and needs. Spryfield is a perfect example. I grew up in Spryfield, and for anyone that knows the area, I think Bonnie's here somewhere. Anyone that knows the area, for a long time, it looked and felt the same way, and the food consisted of pizza and fish and chips. But we've changed a lot, and when we have a lot of Syrians that came there, a lot of East Indians, and the population, Filipinos, has exploded. And it's made the community a better place. It's made it better for myself as a representative and someone who loves food, but also for my children. I think of growing up and everything looked the same, everything sounded the same, and definitely it just felt the same. And my children and the future children in that community get to see and feel what the real world is like, and these beautiful culture and individuals that are now a massive part of our community. So with that, we are awarding $1 million. I feel like the price is right or something up there. And to support the establishment and development of creating integrated restorative communities for locally engaged solutions or circles, Nova Scotia, led by Jennifer Llewellyn. What each community needs is unique and must be identified by that community. This work will empower communities, developing approaches that will address the root causes of their challenges they identify. Come on up, Jennifer.
Well, as long as we're all going off script, I need to say I was sitting there struck by and almost overcome by the connection, the strength of the connection between these FRIs, and really the kind of ecosystem that can't be by accident. It kind of feels like there might be a bit of a movement afoot here, and I'm up for any good scheme, especially if it's for the benefit of Nova Scotia. So the commitments across these FRIs to reconciliation, to finding our way through good and right relations, to the key of relationships for safety and well-being within our rural communities and for senior well-being, to this kind of human-centered approach for integrated care for young people that provides hope for all of us. These track issues that have been central to my own work and to the sort of loosely formed and emerging Team RJ that have thought about what a restorative approach can do to help create our capacity to work in these robust relational ways. And my hope is that I can be a good partner together with the Circles NS team in supporting the work of our fellow FRIs and in finding those strong alignments to get away with this good scheme that Research Nova Scotia seems to have cooked up for us. It is, in fact, my privilege to introduce the project Creating Integrated Restorative Communities for Locally Engaged Solutions in Nova Scotia, or Circles NS, as we're referring to it. I want to acknowledge the team members who are here, who could manage to make it from the local area, and the over 170 collaborators and 52 partner organizations who are with us by live stream or in spirit as we celebrate this formal announcement today. The initiative represents for us a bold step forward in empowering communities to lead the way in research and action to address our most complex challenges through innovation and restorative community-driven solutions. With this initial investment from Research Nova Scotia, we will lay the groundwork for this transformative initiative that combines innovation and research and action. And the initial phase of this project will bring together community-based teams from across the province to design and test a living lab model to support the development and work of restorative communities. So this living lab model is sort of a unique methodology that puts communities at the heart of problem solving. So living labs involve community-based collaboration for research and innovation to address urgent local issues, from community safety to youth engagement. The first test site will start in the Valley region with a focus on their chosen priority issue around community safety. Through this initial living lab, we'll all work together to test and refine a restorative approach as a way for community to come together to tackle local problems and as a model to solve future problems. It'll also pave the way for the development and expansion of living labs in other communities across the province to tackle their most pressing problems, from family health and well-being to the engagement of youth to the welcoming of newcomers. This project will harness the world-leading restorative research and expertise here in Nova Scotia. Specifically, we've all kind of clustered around this Restorative Research, Innovation, and Education Lab at the Schulich School of Law. A restorative approach helps us to prioritize relationships, inclusivity, and solutions that put people at the center. Through this work, we're not just addressing these current problems, we're focused on establishing the conditions so that communities can become and renew their ability to be problem solvers now and into the future. This project then reimagines how we work together within communities, across the province, and importantly, between government, industry, and community. How we can learn from one another about what's needed to solve our complex problems, and how we can build an approach to support that work for other communities to follow here in Nova Scotia, across the country, and across the world. This project then will also establish, to support this, a systems reflection and action lab that will facilitate systems to work collaboratively and in partnership with communities to leverage the existing programs and resources that we have in support of these communities who are leading these living labs and their problem-solving efforts. This focused research investment reflects a commitment then to research that drives impact, Our project is designed to try to redefine an approach to research that's not something done to communities or even simply for their benefit, but that's done with them and by them and as a pathway of collective learning and action that's needed for lasting social impact. The living lab model is key to this, but also significant is our creation of a community interest company as a kind of a novel mechanism that we're going to test to see if we can fully realize the public value and benefit of this research and of other research in this province. This project then is not only aimed at finding solutions, we're focused on envisioning a new way to align research and innovation with public interest that ensures communities will remain both the drivers and the beneficiaries of meaningful change. So our project, in short, is going to test this restorative pathway as a way to overcome divisions that isolate us from one another, that have weakened community, and that have made it more difficult for them to stand in this central place of helping find solutions to local problems. We're going to empower communities to come together to build knowledge, capacity, connections, and muster up the courage needed to tackle challenges locally now and for the long term. By investing in people and, importantly, their relationships, we aim to connect to create the conditions for lasting change. Solutions rooted in local wisdom and cutting-edge research, and that this research and action aims to offer a kind of a blueprint for social innovation that can strengthen the very fabric of our province in real time by experimenting and learning together. We seek to prove that healthy, connected communities are not just possible, they're within our reach. Thank you.
Wow. Well, folks, that brings us to the end of the event. I want to take a moment just to do one more round of applause to congratulate today's 4 teams. Very well done. As I said, I have the honor of being the chair of Research Nova Scotia. I've been on the board since it was created back in 2019. At that time, the decision was made to how do we, as I said earlier, maximize and leverage the 10 world-class universities that we have in this province, the outstanding community college that we have in this, the great community college that we have in this province, and how do we come together in a more focused approach to pursuing the opportunities and solving the problems that our province has. And today, I think you would agree that we saw 4 amazing projects in addition to all the other work that Stefan and his team have led over the past 6 years as an outstanding example of us pursuing that mission, that mandate. So as I bring this to an end, I want to congratulate Stefan and his team. Marley McNeil is in the room. She's our Chief Operating Officer. She's somewhere making sure that this runs effectively. Marley, thank you for all of your amazing work. And thank you to the entire team at Research Nova Scotia. To our press who are joining us today, members of the media, if you would like to have a contact, Lake and Kroll, if you haven't already connected, we'll be here to where, right at the back, waving to us back there. Thank you. So contact can be made with her. You also may have received one of these cards. If you haven't, pick one up because it does an outstanding job of providing you with more information on the 4 projects that were announced today. And my very last comment is to our Minister. Minister, thank you for all of the support that your department provides to Research Nova Scotia. And thank you for going off script today and being so open and so vulnerable. This only works when people are real, people are authentic, and people are genuine, and you lead in that manner. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your leadership. Folks, thank you for coming out today. Please stick around, have a conversation if you wish with the individual 4 teams. And thank you again for all of the support for this incredible research journey that we're on here in Nova Scotia. Have a great day, and thank you again.
We've been working on